Welcome back to another episode, everybody. My name's Emery Wolf. Joining me is Nick Lamb.
Yo, Bonkers, mate.
It's Matt Howard, everybody, filling in for Nick, and we are just two camera guys. Bit of a special show here tonight, Nick. I don't know if you can tell by my background, but I think we're going to be experiencing something a little new here. If you haven't heard about it, The Druids Hand is a short film, all Saskatchewan-made, that is getting quite the success around the film fest circuit all across North America. They've even had some international success. So joining us from that film tonight is Mitch Oliver and Jesse Sawitsky, the co-writers and producers of the movie.
Hi, Mitch and Jesse.
Hey, how's it going, guys? So we got Matt. That's Matt and Emery. Okay. Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, Matt's our stand-in second camera guy when Nick can't make it. Nick's actually working for WCB tonight, he's been shooting some weird documentary thing for them. I don't know what it is.
Oh, that's cool. At least he's got some work. You guys are both in Saskatchewan?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mitch, what's your background?
So I guess, even this time last year, I was a plumber in Saskatchewan. And so I quit that and, pursued the dream of making a short film. And I'm just moved out to Vancouver on September 28th last year. So coming up on 1 year here. But now I work as a production coordinator in the film industry out here.
Okay. So you're like solely self-taught then?
Yes. That aside with a couple, I've been lucky enough to, I too host a podcast. So I use that to network with a lot of filmmakers that I really admired and respected. And a couple of them became mentors.
Yeah. And you're into like a bunch of different things. It sounded like you're part of the committee for the Saskatoon Fantastic Film Fest. You also, I was Googling you, trying to find stuff, and I found a pile of stuff on the Feedback Society as well.
Oh God. Yeah. No, I've been I've been trying my hardest over for as long as I can remember to be somewhat connected to a film scene. Film has always been my passion. So I was doing various things like podcasting, getting involved with the Feedback Society, programming for the film festival, just doing whatever I could to stay in somewhat keep my soul alive while it was dying, while I was removing toilets.
Nice. Grinding it out in the little leagues to make it big, eh?
Yeah, that's exactly. Well, kind of just trying to do anything, man. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to move from Saskatchewan. My whole family's there. I've lived there my whole life. But it just kind of felt like I needed to at least try it. And so far, I'm not regretting my decision, but I do miss home a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I guess maybe the better analogy, and just thinking about it, because I've got a buddy who made it to the NHL, and he basically fought his way there.
Who's your buddy?
Sheldon Brookbank.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm a hockey fan, so yeah. I grew up with Darcy Kemper, and seeing that he won a Stanley Cup last year, it's fucking crazy.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Jesse, I have a whole pile on you and your background, but you know what? I'm going to get you to spit it out because I'm probably just going to put that into the show.
Start with the OnlyFans.
Just get it out of the way. Yeah, so like most people, I had to resort to launching my OnlyFans at the beginning of the pandemic, and that's what really would finance this whole short film. No, I don't know my background. I guess I can kind of go to say that ever since I've 16, 17, I've been playing in bands and involved just in local music and stuff like that, and booking shows and promoting shows in and around Saskatoon. I did that for a little while, but it wasn't until I was even in my early 20s I kind of started kind of teaching myself how to draw, and I've kind of been slowly becoming more involved in visual arts in general over the last probably 8 to 10 years, especially. Personal life kind of been I've done a few different things, I guess. I did go back to the U of S about 5 years ago now, I guess, and I got a teaching degree, so I did just finish that up about a year ago. And so and since then I've basically just been working as a substitute teacher, and I see Emery or somebody has pulled up my Instagram page. So kind of daylight as a substitute teacher, and just try to do some art and just work on creative things. Other than that, so
Nice. Are both of you guys still playing in bands then?
Yes, he is.
I am. Yeah,
Is-
I play in a band, Swayze. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was listening to some of the music. It's not too bad. I can definitely.
It's the nicest review you've gotten.
Very true.
All right, let's jump into the movie. I want to get back to this music thing eventually sometime, but let's get right into the movie itself. So what is, like, somebody out there doesn't know what the Druid's Hand is. What is the pitch to them?
Basically, it's a short supernatural horror film that's set in a small isolated town, which we used. I guess I'll just do the elevator pitch. I don't need to get all into it. It's an ostracized town priest and his illegitimate son, as they face the ramifications of a black magic ritual that they took part in, and it all goes wrong. And the audience is dropped right in at, where shit hits the fan, for lack of better words.
There's no way we could have known. These things, they're nefarious. They'll manipulate, they'll deceive, and they'll take. They'll just take till there's nothing left.
Tell him what you've done.
You can't burn the past away, son.
The other thing I was really interested in, because I'd always thought of this, Nick and I had actually talked about this, but like, why didn't people start more movies on Kickstarter, especially in this day and age? And that's how you guys got your funding for it, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
I would say, I guess if you look on Kickstarter, there definitely are a lot of films and short films that do go that route. I guess in Saskatchewan, though, in particular, I don't personally know of anybody else who has exactly done it. Or at least, I guess at least has gotten success from it. And that's kind of a tough question, because when Mitch and I first even started coming up with the idea of doing a short film together and, just trying to work on something together, one of the first things we said was, we are not doing a Kickstarter. We are not doing any crowdfunding. We do not want to beg people for money. Like, we just want to do something on our own. But then I guess for us, it's just as we kind of got the ball rolling on things and the more people we talked to, we got a lot of people really excited about it early on, and some people were kind enough to be volunteering their time. And once we kind of realized we had a larger growing crew, it became very obvious that we had a lot of potential to do something really cool, but that was going to take some money to make it happen. So that's kind of where where we finally caved and went to Kickstarter. And it was definitely a very, very big learning process for us, still kind of, like feeling the aches and pains from it, even, about a year and a half later in some degrees. So I would say, maybe why people aren't doing it more. I think one of the biggest things, at least what we learned, is that because it is fucking hard.
Yeah. It's super difficult. And I also think like us, people are afraid of people not showing up to. It's kind of like, inviting everyone to your birthday party and no one showing up. It's like an embarrassing feeling. And we did not expect people to show up the way that they did. And it ended up becoming, far, far more successful than we had anticipated. But we really didn't think that people were going to care. And we were proven wrong so quickly. And that was the best feeling.
That's pretty wild. If you had to do it all over again, would you go to Kickstarter again?
Yeah, we do it better this time, though. We learned, like Jesse said, there's a lot of learning lessons. And I think one thing, of course, we are so grateful for all of the support that we did get. But we had, Jesse and I both come from a music background and like hardcore punk metal music at that. So we're used to people not giving money or, you know, getting anything in return for what we love to do. So we were like, well, we need to make this as appealing as possible for everyone. So we essentially made a store. Like we got multiple merch designs that were done by our graphic artist friend who did our cover art for the film, Sebastian, who's he's a close friend of mine. And he's done, you know, art for bands like NoFX and Lagwagon. He did a whole bunch of stuff for the Trailer Park Boys. And so we reached out to him to get him to make us some shirt designs and all that, get all that merch out there. And it was amazing because that way we could give people something substantial that they could actually hold or, you know, wear when they're supporting us. But with that came, you know, the cost of making it all, the cost to ship it to the US. Like, you know, we were lucky enough to have orders from all over the world. And I think Jesse was the one who handled all the shipping on that. And we realized that we were greatly underestimated the shipping costs at the time. So, you know, we ended up with like pretty much what you saw, what we made, we ended up with probably little under half of that, which is still, you know, way more than we had going into this. Jesse and I were going to originally do it just entirely by ourselves out of our own pocket. It also wasn't going to be this grand idea. And, you know, this like we having so many people come aboard, like shout out Laura Crossman, who is our led our art department on this. Bringing her on board really showed that we could make this thing look like a real movie. And, you know, prior to that, Jesse and I've been posting on our Instagram accounts, like we ordered body bags off of Amazon and like did screen tests ourselves in my bedroom and like had Jesse rolling around. And it's like, oh, this doesn't look good. And then you start bringing in the pros and it's amazing what can happen with your concept.
Yeah, for sure. Jesse, just talking about that shipping, with one of our things too, we ship out calendars and it does go internationally as well. It's sort of surreal. And at the same time, I understand how much of a pain in the ass that is.
Yeah.
So
Jesse loved that part of the process.
Yeah.
I think it was after you got all the orders out, you're like, let's make another one right now and do it all over again.
Yeah, my Nick, so the other guy who's usually with us here, he does Leroy and Leroy. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. And anyways, his mom does all the Leroy and Leroy shipping. So he's somehow gotten out of that work.
What an angel.
Yeah, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
and I can't believe his mom
amazing.
does it for him. Yeah. Greatest mom in camera history.
I think she still washes his clothes as well.
Probably does.
That's like your mom, Jesse.
Yeah, if only.
Yeah.
Shout out Wanda, who provided craft services on the shoot. Jesse's mom, it was amazing.
That's awesome. Actually, you know, that's one of the other things too. What is there something about Saskatchewan that can kind of allow for this too? That sort of small town mentality, all hands on deck sort of thing.
Yeah, I think for us especially, that whole like concept, like the Druids Hand was a testament to that. You know, a big part of the reason how the ball got rolling on our film in the first place too was because like I'm from a very small town. It's called Elvina. It's about 45 minutes outside of Saskatoon, sort of towards the PA Walker region, if that means anything to anybody. But I was lucky that, you know, like I do have a supportive family who does like to get involved with, you know, some of my like more harebrained ideas at times, I suppose. And like my dad and my brother run a construction company together. And so, and because I'm from this small town of Alvina, I just kind of, you know, generally know all the people from the area. You know, I was born and raised around this whole area here. And you know, I think it was one of the first nights that we were even brainstorming some ideas, and Mitch was like, you know, I have this idea, but we need like one shot that we need a church, and like there's no way that we're gonna get a church to like let us into film. And I was just like, man, like I can get you a church, I can get you I can get you 2 churches in Elvina. You know, so yeah, that really was like a whole core thing to it. Just knowing so many people from around here, and especially once people from a small town like this kind of heard that, you know, like we were shooting a short film, and you know we had like a professional film crew coming in to work on it and everything. It definitely got people pretty excited, I think. And yeah, I mean, like we had so much support from pretty much everybody out around here that yeah, we couldn't have asked for more, because people went above and beyond.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too was I had just always felt like, if something like that were to ever be happening in Saskatchewan, and if I would have done whatever I could to just be involved. And I felt like it was like, there's got to be other people out there who feel that way as well. And we learned that in spades with our crew. Like there were so many people who just wanted to just be there. They're like, let me run coffees. We'll do whatever. We'll hold blankets. We'll get the crew what they need. And it's just like, it was really the most amazing experience having so many people just doing it out of pure heart. And especially since we were trusting Jesse and I when it was, I can say for myself, like the most nerve-wracking part of the process up until the eventual screening was handing out our script for the first time. So it's like, people are about to see that we made a really fucked up idea, and like this probably isn't what they're expecting. And I think we got to watch the crew kind of come on board with our idea and like try their hardest to try and pull off what we wanted to do. And it's just like, yeah, it's just amazing. But yeah, we heavily relied on so many people to just donate their time and their energy, and the energy that it took to make this thing I've always been a film fan. I've always been, kind of vocal about my opinions, and like I'm a very opinionated guy. I host a podcast, and it made me really realize like it's really, really, really hard to make a bad movie, let alone a really, really good movie. I'm not saying that ours is bad. I don't think that at all, but it gives you a whole different level of respect for the art form when you've actually done it yourself and you see how hard people work. Like, yeah, you won't hear me bitching about the new season of Stranger Things or something like that after doing this, which was also awesome. That was a bad example because it's a great show.
I seen a meme today where it was like these all these people at a lineup for people who want to win, and then there was another lineup that was empty for people who want to put the effort in to win, or what it takes to win or something. So
yeah,
and that is like film in an image right there. It really is that. Going back to this idea of Saskatchewan, so it sounds like maybe the church or the Alvina landscape area was sort of maybe some inspiration for the movie, or maybe led to some inspiration for it. Is there anything else about like Saskatchewan that leads to like the sort of horror movie, scary movie genre itself?
Yes, I absolutely think so. Even like I had mentioned, I'm living out in Vancouver now, and I find myself everything that I'm writing, because I'm, still trying to continue writing and being a screenwriter and directing my own films and everything. And every idea that I have, it's from where I grew up. It's from, like the falling in love with the genre. Like I know this is a movie that's like not really beloved anymore, but I will never forget watching Jeepers Creepers back when I was a young kid, and feeling like it was like that could have been done in Saskatchewan. And same with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is ironic since it's literally in Texas. But there's just something gritty about the prairies and like the land of living skies. Like it's really unreal how much scope there is in Saskatchewan. And not to mention, the characters that you meet. And, like that's not to say like those characters are everywhere, but I think Jesse and I have had a lived life, being able to experience so many different kinds of people, and it makes your brain, when you're even slightly creative, it makes your brain just start spinning, and you come up with all these ideas. And of course, it's natural instinct to go to the darkest thing that you can possibly imagine. And at the time of filming the Druids Hand, or preparing to, there was just a lot of like horrible news about Canadian history, and specifically around churches. And I do believe that was a large part of our response to making the film as mean and nasty as it really is, because we weren't making a religious horror movie. This ain't your grandma's horror movie, I guess, if that makes any sense.
For sure. That Saskatchewan team you have too. So actually talking about a camera guy, your camera guy, Dylan with Versa Films, I believe was your DOP.
Yep.
What do you think he brought?
Jesse, I'm going to keep gushing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm currently making a movie with him right now. We're in production on his debut short film, Our Last Day as Kids, which was another successful Kickstarter campaign. And Dylan I've been close friends with for years and years, and it was like he was the only person that we like. I remember Jesse and I were talking about doing this thing by ourselves and just going and renting gear and just trying to figure it out on our own. But it's like if we can get Dylan, like, you know, that guy can make anything look amazing. And he, you know, I was just talking with him about an hour before we started recording this, how he shot this thing with some of the cheapest lenses that you can find on the market, and on a like a very affordable Blackmagic Ursa camera, like in terms of, you know, like actual films, you know, most of them are shot on Reds or Alexas, stuff like that. He shot on a Blackmagic Ursa that he's had for years. And when we show the trailer, when people see the film, that's like the first thing that catches their eye is like, damn, this thing looks good. And it's like, yeah, that's just pure skill on his side. Like he's brilliant. But now, Jesse, you can say some nice things.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, on top of that, I had sort of known who Dylan was tangentially, just through like local music scene and through Mitch and stuff. I don't know if I'd ever really even talked to him prior to meeting him, you know, and sort of like the pre-production stuff for Druids Hand. But it became clear very, very soon that Dylan was just a, you know, super, super nice guy and just incredibly talented. And, you know, being able to look back and see all the, you know, incredible music videos that he had been working on previously, and he had done some work on some short films in the past, although I hadn't seen any of them at that point. I mean, his music videos and stuff like that really spoke for itself. And it was after the first day that we filmed, we came back to my place and we were just watching some of the dailies, and it was still the very, like, you know, just surreal moment, you know, just to, you know, realize, like, you know, it was only a few short months ago that we were just, you know, trying to brainstorm ideas and putting together the Kickstarter, and then, you know, seeing all of this, you know, just seeing this rough daily footage that Dylan shot, you know, a couple hours previously. And my response, I had literally just looked over at Dylan on my couch and I was just like, Dylan, like, what the fuck, man? How did you do this? You know, like, how did you make this look so incredibly magical? And just and
it's just raw footage too.
Yeah, and truly cinematic. And like Mitch said, you know, like getting a trailer out into the world was one of the coolest feelings as well, just because I think that was at that moment where people, you know, really at least got a feel for, I guess, like the level of professionalism that we were aiming for with the production.
Is there anybody else like we should be talking about? Like, your music sounded pretty good too on it.
Ooh, Scott. I know Jesse and I, that's like one of our favorite things about the film is we brought Scott Hamilton he's been in the local band Adeline in Saskatoon, which, you know, Jesse and I both grew up going. They were around when I was 14 years old, discovering local shows and seeing Scott there. And then he was like the mysterious guy who worked at CD Plus. I'd buy all my CDs from, I'd buy horror movies from him, but I was too nervous to talk to him. He's just a rock star. And once I got involved with the Broadway Theater and the Saskatoon Fantastic Film Festival, I just quickly became really good buddies with him. And the dude's a genius. Like, he really is brilliant. There's a reason he's facing a lot of success this year. Like, his band has been, they have a new album coming out this weekend, and they're on the cover of Decibel magazine. And it's like, which is like the biggest magazine you can be on for that style of music. And Scott's just like, he's one of a kind. I remember, and Jesse and I and Ray, we went to Scott's to hear the score for the first time. And we were just like looking around, and he went so far out for this thing. He was, you know, playing with sounds of cupboards and doors on top of all of his plethora of instruments. And if you've ever had the pleasure of meeting Scott, you can just talk to him for 5 minutes and know that this guy's got a lot going on in his head. And it's something really, really special to be able to share that as a part of our film. That's one of my favorite things about the film is Scott's score. It's so gnarly. It made our really sad, depressing idea somehow so much more sad and depressing. And that's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah.
Damn, we forgot to mention that our like film editor who like edited the trailer and everything, he's originally from Moose Jaw as well. So that's how we got to know him. Jason Hamil is his name. He's been out in Vancouver for a while now, but trust me, if you knew him, you would know he's a hard character to forget. That's what makes him so lovely, is he for lack of better words, looks like Jeffrey Dahmer. We make sure he doesn't forget it.
You didn't put him in the movie?
No,
just
he'll be in the next one.
Yeah. Matt, you're obviously not entirely local here. I don't know how much like horror movie watching you do, but what did you think of the trailer?
I loved it. It was really energetic. I'm kind of I'm a bit bummed that I can't go out and actually see the film for the minute. Do you know what do you guys obviously going to enter into different film competitions and screenings, that kind of thing? Where you at right now with that sort of process?
Yeah, that whole thing is still we're still really right in the middle of all of that. We did get selected and we were screened at the Portland Horror Film Festival. I think that was about 2 months ago. That was the first festival that we actually got accepted
aside
into.
from Dark Bridges. Yeah, like Dark Bridges
sure.
was, that was our premiere in our hometown. But
in Saskatoon, yeah, true enough. But it was really cool getting into Portland, and then a lot of these film festivals, they aren't happening until later this year, early next year. So we were we've kind of just been sitting around, waiting, I guess almost anticipating more rejections and approvals perhaps. And I will vouch for Mitch and say that Mitch was really somebody who has been pushing really, really hard to get this thing into film festivals. And I have no trouble admitting, I think I've been kind of ignorant into how that whole process works and sort of like what the level of importance of it is. Because I think there have been some moments since we wrapped up where, I've just been as eager as I know Mitch has been too, but just to get some eyes on it and so people can see it. But finally being able to sit back and just being more patient with it and seeing some of the responses from the film festivals has been a really cool experience. And then we did announce about a month ago, I guess now, that we are screening at the LA ScreamFest. That's happening right on Hollywood Boulevard at the TCL Chinese Theater. That's happening mid-October, which Mitch and myself were going down for, along with a couple of other crew members as well. So yeah, and I mean, even initially when Mitch told me about the ScreamFest, I was sort of just like, oh, okay, like that's pretty cool, I guess. And then I actually started looking more into what ScreamFest was, and it really dawned on me like, oh, okay, holy shit, like this is something that pretty much every filmmaker who makes a horror film strives to get into ScreamFest. So the fact that we are being screened there, and we're a part of their official selections for this year's festival, it's just a super, super cool feeling. And once again, just we've kind of maintained low expectations ever since the initial writing stages of this, and we kind of keep on continuing, or we continue to be blown away by all the responses that we've been getting. So I guess right now it's sort of just kind of waiting to hear back from some other film festivals that we have been applying to. And I mean, by all means, we will be releasing the film widely, likely through YouTube or some sort of streaming partner, perhaps, if we can get that. If we can get that lined up, but yeah, realistically, it'll be early 2023.
And you're also going to be able to get it on VHS if you'd like. We are doing
That's
a
awesome.
limited run of VHS tapes through Saskatoon company Videonomicon, who is a cult film restoration company. And they were so kind as to offer to be able to help us put it on VHS, so we built, as horror fans, artwork is such a huge part of it. The feeling of going into the video store and seeing all the really grotesque covers and on the back, like that's what really piqued our interest when we were little. Obviously, this is just a novelty item. It's kind of like how people are doing cassettes now. It's like cassettes are not vinyl. Like vinyl does sound better. Cassettes sound like garbage. And obviously, on your 4K TV, our VHS copy of the film isn't going to be mind-blowing, but it's just more so the fact that we'll have that to hold onto and cherish forever. And hopefully other people are interested in having a copy of it, because it's pretty cool. I'm really excited about the VHS.
How many
exactly.
How many copies are you getting in VHS?
Well, I think we're actually going to announce next week. I'm not sure when this is going up, but it'll be next week or the week after on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're going to put up another announcement if anyone wants to get in on it. If they want to buy a copy, they'll be able to just, wire transfer for their copy. But I think right now we have about 35 sold. Like, it's not a crazy amount, but it's still 35 people who want a VHS tape. That's 13 minutes long.
I actually know a guy out here who will want it. Do you know what you should do too? And I think this would be hilarious. And this is a terrible idea. You shouldn't actually do it, but you should like play each cassette like 100 times so that they all get their own individualized degradation on them.
Or like some people have to rewind it.
Jam some pieces of toast in there or something, or just some mystery items that you would typically find.
Well, back in the day, you'd rent like The Sixth Sense, and it would end. You'd put it in, and it's right at the part where you find out that Bruce Willis was dead the whole time. It's like,
oh, that's funny.
Are you likely going to have to sell VHS players as well with that? Is there going to be anybody that's going to ask you for that?
Yeah, no, that's a tough one. I know I have an old VHS tape, or VHS player, but my dad used to own like a home theater and audio store back in the 90s and like really, really early 2000s. So I'm lucky that I have that. I still, before I moved out to Vancouver, I still collected VHS tapes, and now they're all stuck at my mom's house collecting dust.
I've got a burning question. What, going back to the production of the film, what was some of the big scenes or some of the stuff that you're most proud of, special effects or something like that you kind of pulled off and you were amazed by pulling off? Is there a certain scene?
There's a couple, I think.
Definitely a couple. Yeah, I'll start with the first one, I guess. The biggest thing was, I mean, it's in the trailer, but we sort of have this creature that I guess is sort of like, taunting and going after our two main characters in the film, and she's essentially supposed to, resemble this burnt corpse. And even when we were, sort of coming up with the concept, it was really, really difficult to decide on what we could really get away with, because obviously, we do still need to respect that, somebody, we first of all, we need a skilled makeup person who is capable of pulling this off, and that it's, going to look good on film, especially when we are, having like a professional DOP like Dylan running this thing. You can't, you shouldn't be able to see any of the seams or as much as possible, right? And we were lucky enough to get our lead makeup artist, Ksenia. She, I believe, went to, what was it, the Vancouver Makeup of Arts.
She was in makeup school in Vancouver.
Something along those lines anyways. But yeah, another homegrown Saskatchewan talent here. We were fortunate enough to get her involved, and she actually told us that she did have some experience with doing some like more horror style of makeup, including like burnt skin effects and sort of like skin lesions and all that nice yucky stuff that you want in your horror film. And on the first day of production, Ksenia, along with Aaron and Tegan, had to have spent a good 6 to 8 hours with our actress, who Gabe, who was getting all dolled up in the kind of like black burnt makeup. And we had kind of seen bits of progress of it throughout the day, but then Mitch and I and everybody else were sort of busy on set, and we hadn't seen her for the last maybe few hours. And then we were finally getting ready for Gabe's like first scene to shoot in the church. And when she first walked in, we probably had about 20 people of our crew inside the church, and it is no joke that I think everybody, there was like, a moment of just like speech, of just like everybody being speechless, and then everybody just, collectively losing their minds over how incredible Gabe looked in that makeup. I mean, she was truly terrifying just standing next to her on set while she was just, being her sweet, nice self, just trying to talk to you.
And she couldn't see anything. And that's like, we've had a lot of people have commented even on the trailer being like how much CGI did you do on her? It's like, we did not a single bit. Like there's in her eyes, she's wearing contacts. Like there's a scene that you'll see she's coughing something up. There's a little bit of VFX help there, but her eyes, that was completely natural. Ksenia had gotten her some contact lenses that made Gabe, it made it impossible for her to see anything. So we really had to guide her around. Like when you're seeing her move around, she's doing that all completely blind and by the sound of like, you know, my voice saying like left, right, or like, it was pretty intense. But yeah, incredible talent. Gabe Buckles is, and Ksenia and Aaron and Tegan, obviously. So I don't want to cut you off, but I want to mention the eyes thing because a lot of people they've thought that that was CGI and it wasn't.
So that was the big one, and I'm sure Mitch will likely bring up the fire scene.
Yeah, the fire. Like Jesse and I spent with the help of Ernie, Jesse's dad, we spent the, you know, I would say we spent a lot of time, many days building the finale, the set for our finale, which is essentially supposed to be a witch burning site. And we were hoping to build a lot of story with it by having it look like there was more, like it wasn't just like one singular stake in the ground. It's surrounded by abandoned cars, but like vehicles, junk, and like multiple stakes that had already been burnt. And right in the middle of it was a fresh one that the audience hadn't seen lit up yet. And we shot that scene with real fire, with a tiger torch, and the entire Alvina fire, the volunteer fire department from Alvina came out and helped us out both nights. We did it over 2 nights. And that was, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I burst into tears at the end of that night after that shoot, because that was the moment where I really felt like I was living my dream, because I was like, holy shit, I cannot believe we pulled this off. And that way, you know, you look around and, you know, we filmed the scene with everyone was so quiet and respectful on set. And then when we yell cut, it really, you realize that there's so many people there that are helping you. And you see all these guys in the middle of a heat wave dressed in their fire gear, putting the fire out, making sure we don't start a prairie fire or something. And we got to do that 2 nights in a row. And that, I think, was easily the most challenging parts to pull off, because it was real fire.
Yeah, and on top of that, you know, like we also had like underground cables buried, you know, to try to like yank on our dummy body that was being burnt, and you know, some of it perhaps didn't go exactly as planned, of course. But once again, you know, this was all a major learning experience for us all. But yeah, that whole big outdoor set that we built was just such a cool thing, and being able to see it in the finished product as well. It's one of those things where, you know, at this point in the game, I know I can stand back and just sort of, you know, almost be shocked that we somehow did pull this off and that it looked as cool as it did. So
yeah, and maybe one of the most rewarding parts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
One of the other things I mentioned at the start was music. So both of you guys have this, I'm going to call it a metal or hard rock background. You talked about bands like Adeline. Swayze themselves are fairly heavy, I'll call them. What is the connection with music in the horror genre, specifically like metal too, right? Like even when you think about Dave Grohl doing Studio 666.
You know, I mean, obviously, you know, a score is one of the key things to any horror movie. You know, I think that's why, you know, especially in recent years, you look at, say, companies like Mondo and what are they called,
Waxwork Records.
Yeah, Waxwork Records.
Way too much money on that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like they're sort of these like, you know, like boutique record labels that are, you know, pressing all of these old like horror movie soundtracks from the 80s and 90s, because I feel like at the time, I think maybe you could argue that a lot of those soundtracks and scores were pretty underrated for what they were. And I think, you know, a lot of those soundtracks are sort of, you know, getting a lot more respect in the current day and age, when, especially, you know, when, say, you look at a show like Stranger Things, you know, was trying to emulate all of these, you know, like, you know, or trying to bring back all this nostalgia and sort of like what made you feel what you felt when you watched all of these old, you know, horror movies and stuff. And once again, when you go back to it, I mean, you know, music can make or break an entire scene, right? And so yeah, like I know, like for me personally, scores, especially in horror films, like I've always really been drawn to that. And I guess, you know, I mean, not that it really relates to what we did, but I guess with, you know, with the whole connection, say, to, you know, like metal music or heavy music with horror movies, I guess you can even sort of look through that, you know, bit of a turbulent time in horror in the early 2000s, where every horror movie soundtrack, you know, was full of like Limp Bizkit and Mudvayne and all those other sort of like
all
new
great
metal bands.
All great bands.
Sure. but I think horror is still I mean, yes, it is a big genre, but it's still definitely a niche thing, compared to more mainstream audiences, and that applies just as well, to like heavy, to heavy music like metal and punk and everything like that. So I think the two really go hand in hand, and coming from that sort of like punk and metal background from a pretty young early age, it was really sort of ingrained in you that whole scene is sort of ran, just by people doing things very DIY, and it's low budget, and it's all based around just passionate people doing it because they love it. And that's exactly what horror films are as well, right? I mean, even some of the most successful horror movies did not, or have never had very huge budgets. They were done by extremely passionate, creative people who were able to take, a very small amount of something and just, make it look or, sound much bigger than what they were maybe able to put into it at the very beginning. And so yeah, I mean, I think there's endless parallels between horror and heavy music.
With you both coming from a musical background, was it hard to sort of give it to somebody else to score? Did you ever consider scoring it yourself?
Not at all. When you got a guy like Scott Hamilton at your disposal, you take Scott Hamilton. And it was I think even like Jesse's band Swayze is a very like just straight up punk rock band. That's amazing, by the way. They actually are. I made a joke earlier, but he's in an incredibly good punk band. And I had played in metal bands for upwards of 10 12 years, and that's how Jesse and I got to know each other, was in that scene. But I think the whole thing, it really is, it sounds corny, and that the horror genre, metal, punk, hardcore, it's all outsider stuff. Like, it's all stuff that feels very obviously I liked horror from a young age just because of the feelings that it evoked for me. I remember I could compare the time that I saw the Blair Witch Project as a kid to the time where my sister showed me Slipknot for the first time. And it was like something that not everyone wanted to be a part of. And that kind of made me attracted to it. And also more curious as to why do people hate this but love mainstream music. And also, this is coming from my most listened to artist last year was Halsey. Like, I am by no means I love pop music. I just love music in general. I love movies in general. But there's just something about, like Jesse said, the DIY mentality that goes behind these things. It really, Jesse and I couldn't set out, and this might be a bad example, but like we wouldn't be able to pull off a La La Land, like something like that. Even though it's a movie that I really enjoy, like there's something about horror that we've kind of we've been going to the school of horror since we were so young, and like overcoming your fear of these things, and it breaks the fourth wall of what these things are, and you start to think about the artistry that went behind them. And that's something that I know is super attractive for both Jesse and I, bonding over culty 80s movies and seeing what people could do with their bare hands, and all these like amazing, like, I just saw a horror movie a couple nights ago, Barbarian, and it was unbelievable. The feeling will never get old of being in a packed theater and, being surrounded by people who are audibly reacting to what they're seeing on a screen. Like, you don't see that in any other genre aside from, comedy, but it's something so attractive to. I don't know if that answered your question. I have a tendency to go all over the road.
That actually answered my question and the next question I wanted to ask. I guess the other thing sort of attached to that, then, you guys have been into like the horror genre for a while. What is like maybe a top movie people haven't seen that they should be watching, besides The Druids Hand, of course?
Jesse, do you got one?
I need a second to think about that. That is a very, very good question.
It depends. I'm gonna take a little bit of a lazy route and just say, like, if you're at all interested in seeing a wild bonkers movie, there's one out right now, Barbarian, that I just mentioned, that I just loved. But the less you know, the better. It's, I went into it pretty much completely blind. I knew like who was starring in it. I barely knew the synopsis, and boy, was that a treat. But other than that, like, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff I'm a huge fan of Australian horror. Like, there's a lot of stuff that comes from Australia, like, oh yeah, I guess you could get recommendations from my shitty podcast.
It's really not that shitty. It's actually pretty decent. I've listened to a couple episodes, and it'll probably be something I'll look forward
Thanks,
to as long as you guys keep doing it, keep up with it.
Thank you. And that actually just reminded me that The Loved Ones was the one I was going to mention. That was, one of the last movies that really had a strong impact on me. It's an Australian horror movie from 2009 that not a lot of people know about, but last October, my friends who don't like horror movies were welcoming me here in Vancouver, people that I've, moved out here 10 years before I did. And they're like, hey, Mitch, like, show us something that's really going to scare us. Like, let's just let's watch an awesome horror movie. And I showed them that, and they were not happy about it, because I was like, you told me to try and scare you, but I guess it's more disturbing than anything. But that should anyone who's seen The Druids Hand, I'm probably talking it up a little bit by how disturbing it is, but we were trying to really evoke something carnal in people, and that's what attracts me these days, is movies like The Loved Ones and Barbarian that can really just have a strong impact on you. Jesse, what about you?
I think I'll go in a slightly opposite direction, because I know for me, especially, like kind of early teenage years and even, early 20s, I've always just had a really strong draw to just like really sleazy, gross looking like 80s B movies and stuff. And one movie I feel like I've really tried to push on a lot of people is Frank Henenlotter's Basket Case. I think that's still a film that not enough people have seen. So that's a movie as well. I think, it's probably better off not even really saying much about it. And if you haven't seen it, just try to blindly go into it, because I do think that's a movie that will surprise you in so many ways.
Agreed. I'm not much of like a horror movie person. I need to like watch with other people around, but I love like crap like the X-Files and sort of like where there's like that paranormal stuff that like, it gets me thinking. White Noise was one that did it for me too. Watching by myself late at night and, going to bed at night, and you're just like, that's all I hear is white noise.
I think, the Ring for me, that just gave me the heebie jibbies.
Yeah, that's such a great movie that, I think everyone has. That's one of those ones that people underestimate, like how huge of an impact it had. And honestly, I showed one of my coworkers the trailer for The Druids Hand the other day, and he was really excited by it. And he's like, what's the story behind the Ring girl? And it was like, because she clearly, like, she's crawling and that's an iconic image that was, it was even done prior to The Ring, but it was revolutionized by it. And there's a reason it works. It's still so creepy. The Ring's a great movie.
Yeah. So you guys have gone through all this. Have you gone to like any festivals yet and actually spent time there and had people come up to you like sort of fanboying or anything like that?
I guess really our only in-person experience has been at Saskatoon at the Dark Bridges Film Festival. And I guess, you could kind of argue that our night was a little bit more, tailored to us. So I guess, we were very fortunate, to have a lot of our friends and family there, but we did have a sold out screening at the Broadway Theater in Saskatoon, and there's 430
people.
Oh wow!
Yeah, about that. Yeah, so so even
and we don't know 430 people.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, there's not that many people that like us. Trust me. So, no, that was a really mind blowing experience. I know even about a month prior, we had a bit of a meeting with Scott Hamilton, who scored the film and also works as the programming director at the Broadway Theater. And Scott was really, he was talking about this screening at Dark Bridges Film Festival, and Scott was just like, yeah, guys, I'm pretty sure we can sell this out, because I want to sell this out and try to get demand like for potential second screening. And I was sort of just like, okay, Scott, you better hold your brakes here, because I'm not sure what we should be expecting or anything. And then once tickets went on sale, we were getting some updates from Scott in the theater, and it was just like, okay, holy shit, so there are a lot of people buying tickets for this. And yeah, I mean, being there, with 400 plus people, and it was pretty surreal, being on the stage. We kind of, we did a Q&A portion with the crowd there and stuff, and kind of talked about the experience. And I feel like I spent the majority of the time just trying to scan the crowd for our friends and family that I knew were there, and really not being able to pick any of them out. And just being, just realizing that like I don't personally know most of the people here. And yeah, we definitely had, a lot of people coming up afterwards and just saying, incredibly kind and supportive words. And, I think I can confidently say that it all sounded very genuine as well, right? It wasn't just like our parents being like, "Okay, boys, you did a good job."
It felt better when it came from strangers, and I've also and it's not lost on Jesse and I. We are not those guys who think that we're these brilliant geniuses who just created some perfect piece of art. We're like, no, this was really hard, and it was a learning experience for us. And we're of course proud of it, but it is funny. Like I've heard I'm like, I want my friends to be honest, but I've heard some really bad things about the movie from people, and I'm like, that's fair, we do not expect everyone to connect with the 13-minute movie that we made. And but it meant a lot, speaking to people who we had never met before who were impacted by it. That felt really, really good. It felt validating. And that was such an amazing feeling. And I saw people there, out of my friends that were there, I saw people who I hadn't seen in 15 years. I hadn't seen since I graduated high school, and they came out because they heard about what we were doing. And it was such a good feeling seeing them there, and, genuine shock. I was like, what are you doing here? We really underestimated the amount of support that we received from this thing.
What about going down to LA or something like that? Is there something specifically you guys are looking forward to down there? Or what's it going to be like if someone's like, dude, The Druids Hand's the best movie ever?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's at this point, I guess neither of us really fully know what to expect, because ScreamFest is such a massive festival. I mean, I believe it's 12 days long. And it does sound like the majority of the short films are playing over the course of 2 days. So, obviously, there's, going to be, so many films and so many people involved there that, I do imagine it's going to be pretty difficult to really be able to hand pick people out, for, what film was theirs and whatnot, unless they're, part of some, bigger, movie that's being screened where maybe there's an introduction or a Q&A thing. So, but I mean, a big part of the reason why we are going is to try to network with people and to just really, meet other like-minded people and other creative folks, and, other people who do just, want to be doing this type of thing. Right. And on top of that, I mean, it's for us, it's likely to be a once in a lifetime experience. So Mitch and I are both going a few days early to go to the opening night of the festival. Our friend and director and filmmaker himself, Nicholas Humphreys, he had one of his short films, I think 5 or 6 years ago, that premiered at ScreamFest, and
it won that year. And Nick's one of my best friends. He's my mentor, and just knowing, since the beginning of doing this, he's like, you got to try and submit this to ScreamFest. I was like, oh, let's just get this thing made, see what happens. ScreamFest is the place that, obviously, and once again, we don't expect, to come out of this thing with a whole bunch of distribution or people wanting to make our movie. We're just happy people see it. But this is the festival that discovered Paranormal Activity and The Grudge and 30 Days of Night. And it's the film hub of North America. So in terms of horror movies, it doesn't get better than being able to play at this festival. So I'm just excited to sit in the theater and see how people react, and hopefully people don't hate it. That's my goal.
I'm sure they'll like it. Like I said, it looks pretty damn good. It looks like it fits the genre, at least from what I can tell on the trailer. Matt, do you have any questions before I kind of wrap things up with the boys?
I'm interested. Would you guys tackle a different genre? Have you thought about things coming up? What's next for you guys in that sense?
You want me to go? Well,
Yeah.
I moved out to Vancouver to pursue. This is my life now. This is what I want to do. I work in the industry as a career now, which I'm very fortunate of. I've been able to, land myself in a lot of places that I'm learning a lot from, experienced people that have worked on films that I'm a huge fan of. And it's rewarding in ways that words can't really properly express. But I'm writing every single day, trying to come up with new ideas. I am working on a coming of age dramedy with Dylan Hryciuk, who shot the Druids Hand. He has Our Last Day as Kids coming out, and that, the elevator pitch for that is, I'm not sure if you guys have seen the film Lady Bird, but we're essentially making emo Lady Bird. We want to highlight the era of music that Jesse and I are, even where we come from. It's a coming of age story that's nothing about it is horror. I haven't written off the idea of doing. I just love stories. I love movies in general, but I do feel like with my obsession with horror and doing the podcast and being able to speak with so many other filmmakers who have worked in this genre, it really does have me revved up to continue making horror as much as I can. But I am excited to make one. I think, like, no matter what I do, everything I make is going to be depressing. But I'm going to really try and challenge myself and make something kind of bombastic and comedic and fun. But we'll see. It's still very early stages.
Yeah, and I mean, unlike Mitch, Mitch is living out in Vancouver and actively, working in film and TV and stuff. I fully admit that's not exactly a route that I'm necessarily pursuing right now. I definitely wouldn't say I'm never, or I'm not going to be involved in another film production or anything. It was still like, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life for sure, and I would obviously love to be able to replicate that again. But in the same token, it was an incredible amount of work. And I guess, from my personal standpoint, I do have other sort of like artistic goals that I'm sort of working towards right now in terms of, more of like the visual art world and stuff like that. But I think if I, was to get involved with another film production or even a short film, I think horror would still be the go-to genre. I know Mitch and I, have told the story a few times and still joke about when, we had literally gotten drunk and watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, and sort of like during the middle of it, we had paused it and we're just kind of laughing at how just terrible the movie was, and just being like,
hey, I like it.
Yeah, we can do this, sure, right? Like, yeah, like what? Why don't we make a movie? Yeah. And so. But it was, so like that was actually how things got started. But even from that initial conversation watching Zack Snyder's Justice League, neither of us said it out loud, but we both knew that we were making a horror movie. It never even had to be discussed in terms of what genre or what we were going to be doing. It was just like, well, like obviously we're making a horror movie, and that's just something that Mitch and I, that's a big part of our friendship, I guess, too, was just heavy music and horror movies, really. So no, I think I'm pretty confident in saying that I would love to be able to do something else in that genre again.
We're going to be, our original idea was we were going to do a sandworm movie, like kind of like Tremors, something in those lines. And I have not even close to written off that we're going to do that someday. So hopefully I can convince Jesse to get involved with one of these things again, and we can do it again and come up with something fun.
I was going to ask if there was going to be a Druids Hand sequel, but I think we'll just let people take what they want from what you guys just said. And Matt, for you, I feel like drinking and watching movies is like quintessentially Saskatchewan, because that's how I got into this as well. That's why I went to film school, is because me and my buddy were renting movies at the confectionery every week. We got into home theater equipment, so we were both working to pay for all that. So instead of doing drugs, we got into home theater, which was a different type of drug.
Yeah.
And every Monday was 2-for-1 rentals, and every Tuesday was a new movie night. So grab a bag of Mesquite barbecue chips and a couple sodas, we'll call them, and sit down and watch movies. Before we wrap this up, where can everybody find everything about the Druids Hand, everything about, the wonderful world of Mitch and Jesse.
Basically, even just type in, like at the Druids Hand in Google, that should bring you, to our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We do have our own separate YouTube channel as well. I believe there's just a trailer on there right now. I think on my personal YouTube account, which it'll probably show up if you search the Druids Hand on YouTube. We sort of had like a little bit of like a jam together video of what we were up to making the film, and just been putting together some of the sets. So that's something that people can go look at if they're interested. And I know Mitch on our social media page as well, especially on Instagram, he's been uploading some more like behind the scenes kind of things and pre-production pictures and some other evidence, I guess, of what we were up to for the months before we shot there and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're basically on all the major social medias and YouTube. So, and I guess, if people just, want to give us a follow and keep on checking us out. And, I guess ultimately just, wait for some more, good news that'll hopefully be coming. And whenever we can actually widely release this thing, it'll be a really, really great feeling again to just be able to get, guys like you and other people who have been interested, but just haven't been able to actually get their eyes on it yet. So.
Yeah, for sure. With that, we'll wrap it up. I can't wait till this thing winds up somewhere back in my neighborhood and I can actually see the full length thing. I'm actually also hoping sometime maybe you guys come to Regina and play a show, Jesse. I'll maybe try and check that out too. So I'll be making sure I'm watching some of those social media feeds.
I will definitely slide into your DMs when that happens. So.
Perfect. Yeah, with that, that's the show. Thanks for watching, everybody.
We had the director of the Blair Witch Project come on, and we're like,
"Oh wow,
this is a long shot."
You also had fucking Dean Cundy, DOP from like Halloween and like
Jurassic
most
Park.
John Carpenter, Jurassic Park and Back to the Future and everything. Like
He's
that's
shot
still
Jurassic Park.
every time I see his face, I just go like, how did the Terror Table convince him to come on there?
And
so
honestly,
amazing.
It was because his wife is from Winnipeg. And she's like, "Oh, Canada. Yeah, he'll come on and do it." And he's like a 70-year-old man who has just got done shooting Book of Boba Fett. And he's talking to us nerds on Zoom.
Because I love the hockey sticks in the back. It's very Canadian.
You like that?
Yeah.
Welcome to our dungeon.
Intro.
So you intro music? A little controversial. What's going on?
Why is that controversial?
Wow. It got me all. I wondered if I had tuned into the right program actually with the new music.
Welcome back to another episode, everybody. My name is Emerald Wolf. I forgot my name for a minute there. I think I got it. I think I got it.
I know you got it. You got it.
Thanks.
I do want the light in the background. I thought that was pretty awesome.
You do like it?
Yeah. Got any smoke?
I don't. That's the only problem.
That looks awesome though. That is good. What do you want me to say when it's Nick Lamb time?
Just say hello. I want
Good day, mate.
Straight English accent. Yeah, good day, mate.
Cup of tea, Emery.
Like it.
That was a nice intro.
I think that was good.
I give that a good 8, maybe 9. They just oozed, hey? Just passion. Like they were great.
Yeah.
And to say that, like, it's interesting, one of them going into film and one of them just more than happy had done it, right?
I like the going from being a plumber to making a movie. That's pure gold.
But, I mean, it's interesting that somebody would say that as well, because there's a lot of people that wouldn't be honest about it, right? Like, you kind of fake it till you make it, but he doesn't care. Like, it's pretty impressive. It's inspiring, right?
The fun part about this is everybody's gonna move screens. Awesome.
Oh, right.
I'm just gonna let it fly. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's all good.
That's the kind of show we're running.
For sure.
We're like the Brady Bunch.
And then I did nothing about it because I'm kind of lazy. I feel like you probably know how the podcast thing goes, Mitch.
Yeah.
You made a journey back to the homeland.
I did, yeah. So
did you kill the queen?
I did not kill the queen. She had a stellar life, didn't she? You know.
I wasn't a big queen fan. until I found out that she was the second longest running living
So who was the
monarch.
first? I heard that the other day.
Louis the XIV. What is that?
8? Yeah.
And I was like rooting for her. I wanted her to make longest living.
She was your horse.
Yeah. Like I took all the money and was like all in. Queen Elizabeth, baby.
I think there's a real divide. But when you look at what the Queen brought, the tourism aspect to it all, and still like values, basic values of what Britishness or Englishness was, I think she certainly offered that.
I think they should change it to Matt Howardness.
Thank you.
You didn't take like a DSLR or anything.
I did. Barely used it though.
I know.
Shame on me. I'm an iPhone man though at heart now. You know?